What is going on, college basketball fans? Welcome back to another video. Today we have my first official, way too early Danieology power rankings for the upcoming college basketball season. We're still long ways away, unfortunately, but we do have a good idea about a lot of these teams' rosters. There are still some big-time players in the portal, some big-time players deciding if they want to enter the draft or return to school. There are still some roster spots to be filled, but we have a good idea of a lot of these teams so far, and there will be some big changes from now until the start of the season, but I feel it is an appropriate time for my way too early first official 2025-2026 college basketball rankings. Subscribe if you guys are new. Ton of college basketball content here on the channel. Let's get right into it. Okay, guys, as you guys know, I give it to you guys all at once. Here is my way too early preseason top 25. I usually do the Danieology Power 35 rankings, but since we're still way early at this point, I decided to just do a top 25. And as we get closer and closer to the season, I will probably have a Power 35 for the preseason whenever we get just a lot closer to the season. But here it is. Let's break it down. My number one team heading into next season is going to be the Houston Cougars. They are your runner-ups from the 2024-2025 season, and they will be returning some really good players, including Emmanuel Sharp, Joseph Tugler, who was the Defensive Player of the Year. He is going to have a massive season next year. I can already see it. They will be returning Milos Uzan, their point guard, and they're bringing in guys like Pop Isaacs as well, and as well as another 5-star recruit coming in. They are going to be loaded once again next year. They are definitely going to be the favorites to run the Big 12 once again next year. They are going to run that Kelvin Sampson system where they are going to be, one of, if not the best defensive teams in the country. And returning Joseph Tugler, Defensive Player of the Year, is only going to, help that be even more of the case. So Houston, 100% got to be my number one at this point. My number two team has to be the Purdue Boilermakers. In my opinion, they are returning the best point guard in college basketball in Braden Smith. It wouldn't surprise me if he does average 9 or 10 assists this upcoming season. They're also returning Fletcher Lawyer, Trey Kaufman-Wren, and they're bringing in Oscar Clough from the transfer portal, another 7-foot big man. And I'm going to have a video talking all about Purdue and why I'm so high on them here, coming out here very soon. But I think that they are going to be an elite team next year and a national championship contender next year. Number 3, we do have the Duke Blue Devils, and they are going to be losing a lot of their production from last year, but they will be returning guys like Caleb Foster and Isaiah Evans. They're bringing in Cedric Howard from the transfer portal. Those are going to be huge pieces for this team, and also bringing in a ton of recruits, as you know Duke is going to do. They are still going to have a ton of really good freshmen, including the Boozer brothers, the sons of Carlos Boozer, going to be a very good season once again for Duke. Number 3, you could definitely argue it is a bit too high, but I do think, like, in John Shire's system, they're going to be a top 10 offense and defense once again next year. They're going to run the ACC, and really there's only one team, as you can see in my top 25, one other ACC team in my top 25 that I think could give Duke a run for their money. But I really do think that Duke is going to run the ACC once again this year. Number 4, I do have BYU, and I don't know why people are sleeping on BYU. They're really missing a point guard, I feel like, and they got one. They got one in Rob Wright. Bringing in Rob Wright and returning Reggie Sanders, bringing in AJ Dabdanza, which is actually the number 2 overall recruit right now. He was the number 1 recruit for a long time, but Darren Peterson, who is committed to Kansas, actually passed him up recently on 24/7 Sports, so that's interesting there. But nonetheless, bringing back those guys, Koba Keita down low at the center position, who was really turning up as an elite rim protector. They're going to be very, very hard to beat next season, and really the only I think they're going to be top 10 team 100% next year, and in Kevin Young's system they're going to have a high-powered offense with all these playmakers. It is going to be a very, very fun team to watch next year, and won't surprise me. A team that I do think will be a 1, 2, or 3 seed next season heading into the March Madness tournament. I'm very, very high on BYU heading into next season. So much so I have them above the defending national champions, the Florida Gators. I feel like people are sleeping on this Florida team. Now, do I think that they are 100% going to repeat back-to-back champions? No, I don't, but I do think that they are definitely being slept on. Yes, they are going to be losing Walter Clayton Jr. That is going to be a huge loss. Elijah Martin and Will Richard. Those are going to be tough losses there in the backcourt. But as far as their front court, they are returning pretty much their entire front court. They are going to have Thomas Hall. They are going to have Alex Condon. Also Chen Yule, who is going to be an awesome rim protector rebounder for them at the 5-man. So returning that front court is going to be absolutely huge. And bringing in guys like Xavier Lee and Desmond Claude to fill out that backcourt once again, I think that they are going to be a fantastic team next year. Don't sleep on them. I still have them in my top 5 right now, coming in here at number 5. Number 6, I do have Iowa State, and they're returning 3 big-time players. Taman Lipsey at the point guard position, and then in the front court they got Milan Momcilovic, who is, I think, going to have a breakout year in his junior season. His first 2 years, freshman, sophomore at Iowa State, he's been pretty good. He really started turning up as a very good three-point shooter this past season. I think he is going to be an elite three-point shooter this upcoming year. And also Josh Jefferson down low is going to be huge for them at the 4 position. He can really get it done down low. In his senior year, I think he is also going to have a big year. Iowa State is going to be fantastic. They're going to have a good defense once again as well. I am very high on Iowa State. Also, UConn coming in here at number 7. Don't sleep on UConn. They are going to have a starting backcourt of Solo Ball and Silas Damari, the transfer from Georgia. That is going to be an elite backcourt in college basketball. Also, Alex Caravan has announced he is going to be returning for his senior season. And they got some 5-star freshmen coming in as well. UConn, don't sleep on them. They kind of had a down year. They were still, pretty good. They were competing with the national champions, the Florida Gators, in the second round of the March Madness tournament. And they're going to be returning some really good players. So Alex Caravan, of course, he's been a key piece to 2 national championships for the UConn Huskies. And Solo Ball is going to be a breakout player. He really broke out last year. I think this year he is going to be close to a 20-point per game scorer. He is going to be an elite shooting guard in college basketball. Look out. Next up, we do have the Kentucky Wildcats. Now, Kentucky, interesting team. They will be returning Ortega Owe, which is going to be massive for them. They really needed that. And also bringing in guys like Jaden Quaintance as a center, former 5-star, played his freshman season last year at Arizona State. He is going to be a great rim protector and scorer down low, and a guy who has some potential to stretch out and shoot as a 5-man. That's going to be huge for Kentucky right there. Jalen Lowe, transfer from Pitt, a great point guard. That is going to be massive for them because he is going to be a great playmaker. Kentucky, very good team this upcoming year. Bring in a ton of transfers once again. I think Mark Pope is going to have once again another high-powered offense. Next up, we do have Texas Tech at number 9, returning J.T. Toppin, the Big 12 Player of the Year from this past year, and one of the best centers in college basketball. He is going to be massive for them. That is going to be huge. Also returning guys like Christian Anderson. It's going to be a great year for Texas Tech. I got them here in the top 10. Next up, at number 10, we do have the Louisville Cardinals. Now, Louisville is going to be losing a lot. They're losing Chucky Hepburn. They're losing Rain Smith. They're losing Terrence Edwards. They were all seniors, but they reloaded in the transfer portal in that backcourt. Not only are they bringing in 5-star freshman Michael Brown Jr. To play point guard, but their wings are going to be elite this upcoming season. They have one of the best shooters in the country in Isaac McNeely coming in. Also, Ryan Conwell is another really good shooter and scorer. And also Adrian Woolley, who can shoot the ball as well and really score a transfer from Kennesaw State. So they're bringing in a lot of shooting at those wings with a really good point guard prospect in Michael Brown Jr. and also returning Kisan Pryor to play down low. Louisville is going to be very scary next year, and I got them in the preseason top 10. Next up, at number 11, we do have Michigan. Now, Michigan, the more and more I think about it, I may be a little bit too high on them because I do think Danny Wolf is going to be entering the NBA draft. Now, if Danny Wolf were to return, which he might actually already announce that, I think that this is pretty justified, but I doubt he's going to return. Either way, Yaxel Lindenberg is going to be massive for them, and also bring in the transfer from North Carolina, Elliot Cadeau, who I think is going to be a very good point guard. I think North Carolina fans were really sleeping on his abilities. I think he is an underrated defender, a very good playmaker. He's going to thrive here for Michigan, and I think that they got a squad. Now, I might have them a little bit high the more and more I'm looking at this, but I do think it is possible that they are the second best team in the Big Ten this upcoming year, just behind Purdue. And at number 12, and these teams all kind of go, together. Louisville, Michigan, and St. John's all having really big transfer portals and very much relying on that. But St. John's putting together a squad, bringing in Ian Jackson, another transfer from North Carolina, another guard who was a freshman this past season, a very good shooter. I think he is going to be so good next year for St. John's. And then the front court. This is maybe one of the best front courts in the country. I mentioned some good ones already in Florida's, Purdue's. There are some really good front courts out there. But St. John's bringing in Bryce Hopkins, a transfer who was injured last year for Providence. Bryce Hopkins to play the 4. And then bringing back Zuby Ejiofor, who broke out last year, was one of the better centers in college basketball, to play the 5. St. John's, that is an elite front court. Look out for the Johnnies. They're here at number 12. Rick Pitino is going to have a squad. I think either them or UConn, whoever wins the Big East, is really going to have a shot at getting a 1 seed this next season. But I do think I could see Houston, Purdue, Duke getting 1 seeds and maybe a second Big 12 team, whether BYU, Iowa State, Texas Tech, or maybe Kentucky, Florida. Whoever wins the SEC could get that last 1 seed, or maybe the winner of the Big East, UConn or St. John's. Maybe a way too early bracketology in the working right now, so be on the lookout for that, guys. Also, number 13, 14, and 15. I'm going to talk about these 3 SEC teams all together here because they all are, bringing in some good players, but are losing some of their really good players that were really helping them be top-tier championship contenders these past few years. And I do think that there is arguments for them to be in the top 10, and it wouldn't surprise me if they were top 10 teams all of next season. But because they are losing so much, it is really hard to say. Auburn losing Chad Baker-Mazara, Janai Broome, and all these seniors that were on their team, Tahad Pettiford even, is probably going to enter the NBA draft. Now, if they were to return Pettiford, I think Auburn would be a 100% bona fide top 10 team. But I do think Pettiford is going to enter the NBA draft. But they are bringing in some good players like Keyshawn Hall, a transfer from Central Florida, like Kevin Overton, transferred from Texas Tech. They're going to have a squad. Bruce Pearl is still going to have a very good team. At 14, you got Alabama. Now, Alabama, I think, is 100% going to still be very good because that Nate Oates offense is always going to be very high pace, and he's still going to have the players to do it. They are returning some of their players, even though they are losing Mark Sears, Grant Nelson, and some of these really good, talented players. Bringing back Latrell Wrightsell, who did get injured this past season for Alabama. That is going to be huge. And also Aiden Holloway. Aiden Holloway, who Auburn fans really hate, is going to be huge because he is going to have a breakout year for Alabama this upcoming season. But they are also bringing in some really good recruits coming in this next season who are going to fill those spots. They are going to be good once again. And honestly, there is an argument Alabama should be top 10 preseason just because of those recruits and some of that returning talent that project to have some breakout seasons. Look out for Alabama this next season. Tennessee's interesting because they are really going to more so rely on depth rather than having their star players. I don't know if they're going to have a Dalton Knecht, a Chaz Lanier this next season. Zakai Ziegler and Chaz Lanier are done. But they did bring in Jacoby Gillespie, a transfer from Maryland, to play point guard. He's going to be a big-time scorer for them. That is really their star player, but I think that they have a squad built around him. They are still going to be a very good defensive team, and in that Rick Barnes system, you got to have them still as a top 25 team. 16, we got Illinois, and Illinois is my sleeper right now in the Big Ten Conference. They are building a squad. I think Kylan Boswell is a very underrated point guard that they will be returning. Also bringing in Andrej Stojakovic, the son of Peja Stojakovic, to play on the wing. That is such a massive pickup, and also returning guy like their center in Tom Islov. Illinois is definitely a sleeper to watch this upcoming season. They're definitely my sleeper in the Big Ten. I got them here at 16 in the way too early preseason rankings. 17, we got Michigan State. Now, Michigan State's also going to be losing a lot. Jace Richardson going to be entering the NBA draft. They're losing Jaden Akins, who was a senior. It's going to be Jeremy Fears. Jeremy Fears, I think, is going to be a breakout point guard for Michigan State this upcoming season. You know, he was a very highly recruited point guard out of high school. He had that injury. He's back, and he was really playing well the end of this last season. And I think he is going to break out this upcoming year. Also, Cohen Carr. Cohen Carr was really turning up towards the end of last season. He is one of the most athletic players in college basketball. That is going to be huge. If he can start knocking down the three-point shot, not only is Michigan State going to benefit a ton from that, but he's going to end up being a lottery NBA draft pick this next coming season because he's one of the most athletic players in the draft or in the country. And also, if he can start knocking down a three-point shot, that'd be a wrap. He'd 100% be a very sought-after NBA prospect. Next up at number 18, we do have the Kansas Jayhawks, and Kansas is so low for me right now, and them and Arizona, I'll go and talk about them together because they are kind of on that next tier of Big 12 teams that I think could take that next step depending on how good their young players really are playing. And for Kansas' sake, it's not only just freshmen. Like I mentioned earlier, Darren Peterson did pass up A.J. Dabansa as the number one player, so that is going to be great for them to have at the guard there. But also, Flory Badunga, I think, is going to have a breakout year at center position. Honestly, if he was starting last year, he would have probably had just as good production as Hunter Dickinson or close to it. Not as far as the three-point shooting, but everything else, rebounding, defense. He has more athleticism, obviously, than Hunter Dickinson. I think he is going to be, I don't know about an upgrade, but I don't think that they're losing too much other than, Hunter Dickinson's ability to stretch the floor with Flory Badunga. He is going to be a big-time piece there at center for the Jayhawks, and they're really going to rely on this recruiting class, which is definitely different from what we've seen in past years from Kansas, and it could be to Bill Self's benefit. They've been building through the portal. It hasn't really been paying off. Now they're building through recruiting and players out of high school. Let's see how this goes this year and kind of plugging in the pieces around them, which is really kind of what Duke did last year, right? They brought in Cooper Flagg, these top-tier freshmen, Con Knipple, and they were plugging in some transfers in there. Kansas could see similar success, but will they have that type of offense that Duke had last year? I don't know about that. We'll see how good Darren Peterson and these freshmen really are. Arizona, also a guy like Koa Pete, a five-star freshman coming in. That is going to be huge for them. They got a couple other big-time recruits coming in. Also, Bryce James. I don't know how much of the floor he is going to see his freshman year, but LeBron James' son going to Arizona as well. Arizona, Kansas, kind of in that next tier of Big 12 teams that are really going to rely on their freshmen. And if their freshmen are super good, like I said, I could see them get on that tier of Texas Tech, Iowa State, BYU, Houston, who are all in my top 10 as Big 12 teams. Number 20, we do have Arkansas, another team that is really going to rely on recruiting. They are returning DJ Wagner as well, and they got some really good five-star freshmen coming in, so I'm very excited to see what Calipari can do. They went on a sleeper run there to the Sweet 16 as the 10 seed this past year, upsetting 2-seeded St. John's in the second round. That was very impressive, and Calipari still got it. I think that they should be a top 25 team right now. Next up, 21, we do have Gonzaga. Now, they are going to be losing Ryan Nembhard, their star point guard, one of the best playmakers in the country, but they are going to be returning a elite front court of Graham Ike, Braden Huff, one of the best front courts in the country. They do need to bring in some backcourt. Keep getting that mixed up, but they do need to keep bringing in some backcourt to replace Ryan Nembhard, to replace Nolan Hickman, and these really good players that they had. That is going to be a question mark. We'll see how they do it. 22, we do have Creighton Blue Jays. I'm pretty high on Jackson McAndrew. I think he's the future of this Creighton Blue Jays team. I think he's in for a breakout season. Also, Josh Dix, the transfer from Iowa, coming in. I think McDermott is going to work his magic. They're going to be a super good team. I would like to see them bring back Pop Isaacs. It sucks that he went and transferred over to Houston. That was a big blow there to Creighton because he was awesome last year until he got hurt. I thought he was going to return to Creighton. Didn't really play much there, but that would have been huge for them. I still think that they could be a top 25 team. 23, 24, and 25 are all teams that I think are really going to rely on their star players, and these are players that I think are going to be top 10, 15 returning players in all of college basketball. And that is Mississippi State's Josh Hubbard, Oregon's Jackson Shellstad, and UCLA's Donovan Dent, who is the transfer from New Mexico. Those three players alone can carry their teams even further up from the top 25, up into the top 20, 15, even top 10. These are superstar players for next season. I'm very excited to see what they can do. But yeah, they and they are all really well-coached teams too. Chris Jans, Dana Altman, and Mick Cronin as well. Very good coaches, and I'm very excited for those teams. And for those reasons alone, I had to put them there at the tail end of this way too early preseason top 25. Watch list, way too early watch list. Most of these teams, Wisconsin, I really wanted to stick in there. I couldn't find a spot for them. They've been really building in the transfer portal as well, and they have a very underrated coach in Greg Gard. But a lot of these other teams, and St. Mary's as well. I'll throw St. Mary's in the Wisconsin tier there of teams that are just very good, very well coached there with Randy Bannett. They're always going to have that really good defense. They're always going to be sneaking into the top 25. But the rest of these teams are teams that have really hit heavy in the transfer portal. They've spent a lot of money, and it wouldn't surprise me if they were able to get it done here this year. That's USC. You know Eric Musselman's going to be hitting the portal hard. Miami has spent a ton of money in the transfer portal, getting pickup after pickup. Texas as well. Not only are they picking up players through the transfer portal, but they picked up themselves a new coach in Sean Miller, who got him to come over from Xavier. And NC State and Will Wade. He's a great coach, and he could get them turned around in year one, especially if they are able to finish getting PJ Haggerty, which right now he is very heavily crystal balled to go to NC State. So if they get PJ Haggerty, they are going to be on the tier of Mississippi State, Oregon, UCLA, of having one of the best guards in college basketball, one of the top returning guards, and can that alone carry them to be a top team in college basketball. But let me know what you guys think, guys. I feel pretty happy with how this has come together. I have a good understanding of where a lot of these teams' rosters are, and I think all these teams are going to be very fun to watch next year. I'm very excited for the college basketball season already. It's been like almost a full month. Maybe it's been over a full month since we've had college basketball. I already miss it so much, and I'm ready for next season. But be on the lookout. We're going to have more off-season content like this, NBA mock drafts, any transfer portal updates that happen throughout the off-season, all kinds of stuff here on the channel. So be on the lookout. We will get through this college basketball off-season together, and we will get to the next season here eventually. So thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are a real one if you guys are watching this off-season video and made it to the end. Subscribe if you guys haven't already. And yeah, guys, thank you for watching.